Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our South African Library Week event, Free State Branch. My name is Kehomudiswe Puti. I'm the chairperson for the Free State Branch, Liasa. I hope you can hear me clearly. You can just ask people to mute. Ms. Modise, can you please mute for us?
Okay, I'm looking for the mute.
These things happen, thank you. I just want to welcome everyone, and I want to acknowledge the presence of some people, in our midst. I want to welcome Danny Malan, the National Treasurer for Liasa. Welcome, sir. I also would like to acknowledge Betsy Easter, the director at CUT. Welcome, Betsy, always. And I would also like to welcome if Jeanette Molopiani is here, the director at UFS Library. She's not here yet. She'll be on. And if I have missed anyone at one of the directors or national office, please forgive me for that. And the most importantly, I want to welcome all our Free State members. If there are any guests, we also want to welcome you here at our branch event. We won't be having a long feedback on the meeting that we had as a BEC, because this is a branch it's a national event also that is hosted by the branch. So we want to, I will just give a brief of what we spoke about, but the full report, I will send, the chairperson's report will be sent to you on all the things, the feedback also from the REPCO Council. However, the meeting, a full meeting will be held before our next event. So what I want to just say before I carry on, I also want to thank Mr. Charlie Molepo, who was supposed to be facilitating this event. Unfortunately, he had to go for an operation. So he has put in an apology, and Mayor Thabiseng will be doing the facilitation for us. And we wish him a speedy recovery. Are there any other apologies from anyone?
Yes, I have an apology from Rhonda Besaidenout. Thank
you, Erna. Okay, so without wasting much time, I just want to highlight that to date, we had two events, including this one for this quarter, and we had 3 BEC meetings. And I also had an opportunity as a chair also to speak at the Lesedi radio, the national radio station, to just talk about South African Library Week as well. So these are the things that also bring our branch to a good start. Thank you very much. So our theme for Liasa is reimagine, repurpose, and rediscover libraries. So with this event, we as the branch, we are focusing on the sustainable goals, focusing on the libraries. So I am going to hand over to Men Thabiseng. Men Thabiseng is the Assistant Director of Acquisition at the University of the Free State. and is also the IFLA Regional Council Chair. So she will be facilitating the process, and she's just going to do a short presentation, and she will also be welcoming our guest and introducing our guest. And then from there, it will be a discussion, and then Nambita will do a short quiz with us, then we close the session. Thank you very much. Over to you, Mentabiseng.
Good afternoon, everyone. I can see the program says Dr. Charlie will be doing it. As you can see, I'm not in Dr. Charlie. And I am Thabiseng Kotsokwani, as I've been introduced. I am the chairperson of the International Federation of Library Association. I chair all the, how many are they? The 8 regional councils of the International Library Association. It's the America, which is Canada and North America, Asia and Oceania, Sub-Saharan Africa, MENA region, which is part of the North Africa and your Dubai, Qatar, and then Asia, Oceania, and Latin American region. So those regions have been divided according to the UN division. So that's what I do at IFLA. I also was a member of the AFLIA, which is the International Library Association of Africa. The SDGs as, yeah, it is a very broad topic in libraries and in general, like, you know, libraries everywhere. We have libraries. One of our lecturers, when I was still a student many years ago, from Namibia, Prof. Muchombo, he used to say that we have barefoot librarians. The barefoot librarians are those librarians that go in the most rural areas of Africa, where, you know, we go with donkeys and carts, and we have a further reach than anybody else in the world. So why the library week? I don't think any librarian needs an explanation why we have the library week. I think this is an opportunity for us to showcase what libraries do in our community, to market our services, to advocate. Every librarian is an advocate. You are an advocate. I am an advocate for libraries. We are advocates in the university. We are advocates in public libraries, in the municipalities, in government, in UN. As you know, that IFLA also has a seat, observing status in UNESCO, in IFLA, in WIPO, all over. And we have the SDGs are as a crucial part of IFLA. And as a chair of the Divisional Council, we also have, it's one of our action plans. All the regions, all of them, we have given them a task that one of their action plans, one of their, what do you call it, their objectives, the first one is is the SDGs. So all the regions have been given that task, and they have gone into the different regions and then assigned specific projects that are going, the libraries will work on, and they're going to be funded so that we see the difference that the community, the libraries are making in the communities. So I think this was a good subject for the region, you see, now I'm saying region because I work with regions, for the branch to really focus on, but it is a broad area. And as you know, that in the SDGs, libraries feature in every one of all those SDGs. I'm going to try and share I'm going to try and share my screen. and get some of them. I'll share all my screen. Hopefully there won't be anything that I shouldn't be sharing. I'm just gonna share quickly a presentation on the SDGs, that just to show you what is it that where the library feature. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, this is the I really love this picture. This is a picture of librarian. It explains what we do. You can see that we have those are barefoot librarians with a donkey carrying books, and you can see they are going to a very to a rural area where they are going to share information. So AFLIA and IFLA also are encouraging us librarians as advocates. So this is a picture that I got from the manual that has been developed by IFLA to help us as librarians to advocate and to work with the different communities, to work with government, to work with our institutions to make sure that we achieve all the SDGs. So I have this, also I won't go through all of them. This, as you can see on the screen, yeah, we have SDG 1, ending poverty. You can see that it says library provide opportunities for people to improve their own lives, support and inform decisions. Mobile libraries make books, services, internet access available in the rural and remote communities, providing opportunities to people that would otherwise be isolated. Do you understand how important it is that we have libraries? So as librarian and as LIASA, I know this is the main focus of AFLIA. AFLIA sits with the ministers of education and arts and culture every year, so that they enforce the importance of libraries and make sure that the ministers, every year they come to AFLIA and do presentation on what they are doing for libraries in their countries. I know we always go, when I was still in the committee, we would meet with our Minister of Arts and Culture, all these ministers, they have even an agreement that they have set, we have set down that for this year, you will do 1, 2, 3, 4. The SDGs I know is one of them, and the literacy, and to make sure that libraries are visible and effective and well-funded in all the areas of Africa. So all the ministers, yeah, it's so nice because now we become the bosses. We sit back and watch them do presentations for us and tell us how are they supporting the libraries. So when the ministers support us in Africa to do our work, this slide shows us what we as librarians, we as advocates, we as the people on the ground, we who are working with the people, what is it that we do? So you can see that I've shown you how we can develop, how we can be involved in eradicating poverty. You can see ending hunger, we have a purpose there. And on SDG 3, we ensure healthy lives, promote well-being. Anna Marie and all the medical librarians, do you see the part that you play? And then we achieve gender equality, everyone does that. And especially the public libraries. Public libraries create safe spaces for women. You know, when we come there, the women go there and gather there, they look for information on how to sustain their small businesses, how to take care of their families. So it's the small things that we do as libraries that we really don't realize how much we are improving the lives of the communities. So when you do your work, remember what it is that you are empowering the community. So we have SDG 2. I'll just leave them so that you can read for yourself quickly. And you can see in SDG 4, ensure an inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. All my fellow academic librarians, this is where we play an important part. We are at the heart of schools, universities, and colleges in every country around the world. All libraries support literacy programs, provide safe space for learning, and support researchers to access, apply, reuse research data or data, however you say it, to create new knowledge. Hands-on computer classes, after school support, and programs addressing subjects with high failure rates. You know, we have students that are struggling. This is where we have a part to make sure that we produce employable graduates, graduates who have skills that they can use when they get into the world of work, you know? So that's what we should be doing. Information librarians, that's where you also play a major part. We also provide access to information on water, energy, sanitation. We offer access to research and evidence for policymakers and development organizations to support the effective allocation of resources to sustainable water infrastructure and sanitation. Did you all think that there is anything that you do you have anything to do with water? We all sit in the library and we think, oh, wow, my job is I'm just a librarian. I sit behind the desk and then I give Prof when he comes the information, but we support research. And then I'll go to the next page. I tend to talk a lot. Please stop me when I'm going overboard.
Okay.
So we have SDG 7, we've got SDG 9, 11, 8, 10, 12. You can see in there also what the role that the libraries play. So, and each and every one of us has got a role to play. That's why I'm saying to you, we are all advocates. There is, okay, let me just go quickly. Please skim read. I know you're all librarians. Just read quickly through all that. And then we are here. We have 13, 15, 17, 14, and okay, I can't count apparently. So libraries play a key role in providing access to reliable data, research, and knowledge that support informed research and public access to information about climate change. We conserve in SDG 14, you see the library support decision-making by preserving and giving access to data and information. Can you hear everywhere there's data, research, information, data, research, information, safe space, everything that we do contributes towards the SDGs. And then I'll go to 14. And you can see there, it says libraries foster research and help protect the Earth ecosystem by offering open access to biodiversity data and literature. Botanical and forest libraries help raise awareness among young generation about the need to respect and protect nature. So this is what we do as librarians. So this document, right? It's available for you to read from the IFLA website, but if you want me to email it to you, I can email it. So because it will indicate to you at every step, what is it that we need to do? If you are looking for a project that you think, in the library, what can we do? Then you can go to this. It's actually a guideline that has been developed by IFLA to ensure that the libraries are in fact helping in improving the communities. And we also, if you run out of projects. So the other section that I will come to is the SDG stories. We have I always say, the people that have had me talk, I always say, librarians, we don't brag about what we do. We need to brag about what we do. We have to tell our stories, especially in Africa. We should not let other people tell our stories. As Africans, we need to tell our stories in our own voice and in our own way. Africans are storytellers. That's what we do best. Yes, we write, but we are very good at telling stories. So IFLA has developed a manual also for storytelling, but this time not telling stories in the public libraries to young children. We tell our stories to government, we tell our stories to the municipality, we tell our stories to the funders, we tell our stories to the university. This is what we are doing in the library. This is how we are contributing and to what's the SDG. We tell it to everyone who needs to fund us. So there's a guideline also, there's a library map of the world that can you see, there's a story that has been told about kids coding in libraries. That's a story. If you go and find, it's in Romania. This was done in Romania. If the Romanians go to the government and say, this is our library, it's in this area, and this is the project we are running, it's very easy to fund something that you can see and a project that you can see, and then you go back and you have evidence, you have data, you have, you have something tangible to show to the policymakers. So this is our role as librarians. Let's stop underplaying our work. Let's stop thinking we are just there. We are advocates. We are there. We contribute a lot to the SDGs. So every country has been asked to submit their story, their SDG stories in IFLA. We have what we call a library map of the world. So we have created a map, and then every country shows, every time you upload a story, the number of stories increase. Like, let's say there's 10 from South Africa, there's 20 from Nigeria, there's 50 from let's say from Latin America, say Barbados, for example. So all those stories are loaded on that library map of the world. I don't want to show the library map of the world because, yeah, in Africa, you can, like, it's literally a dot. Fortunately for my people in Liasa, we have done the stats. We've put up our stats of the libraries that we have, where they are located, how many librarians we have done, and that was done by the National Library. So the stories, you put anything. We can literally today, after this meeting, upload that story in that Liasa's Free State branch had a meeting, and then we upload this as a story to showcase what we did during the library week. So, and then anyone who goes and clicks on the library map of the world, unfortunately, I don't have the time, I would show you the library map of the world. So there is a lot of stories that are there. I also just want to maybe stop sharing, if I can remember how to stop sharing this document, and then go back and show you what okay, can I say stop sharing? Sharing you. I will open another presentation. I'm not taking away from our speaker. So I'm just showing you what libraries are doing. Okay, I'll share this quickly. Yeah, can you see that? Somebody say yes so that I know I'm there.
Yes.
Okay, right. There is the guidelines that about the SDG stories. Do you see that we have all those stories that we can share? And I'll go back. I'm not gonna do a full, okay, let me do it this way. So that's the library map of the world. That's what it looks like. So you can see in Africa, you will see there's stories. Oh, I'm very proud now. We are improving. And the regional council has been tasked, all the regional councils have been tasked on loading the stories on the library map of the world. So you can see there's that part 4. It's all on SDGs. And then we also have resources for advocacy. So please don't sit back and say, I don't know what to do. IFLA has got guidelines for you that can help. You see, we collect data, you can see the country profiles, you can see all the stories. And there's in that library of map of the world, there's about 134 countries that have put their stories. They've got 53 SDG stories. 26 countries have loaded their stories. And you can know who are the main contributors. Okay, this is the slide I wanted. You see the national libraries. At first, they were responsible for loading the stories and putting our stats, and the National Library Associations, other libraries, other institutions. We can put what UFS is doing, I'll say UFS, or CPUT, or what SALW. They can also put their stories in the library map of the world. And anyone and everybody can contribute to the library map of the world. And these are the type of information that you can put in there and showcase your library. And when you click on it, it will show you the organizations, and then you can see what you can see from that library map of the world. One day I'll do a whole session maybe on the library map of the world and the SDG stories. There's a flow chart, there's things that will support you, and you can see, you will see all that document that I showed you earlier. Okay, I hope I'm not taking away any time from anybody, and that's my story for today. Otherwise, if you allow me to talk, I will take up all the time and then we won't hear our speaker. So there, do you see that they are even updated weekly? You can see, do you see that there's different versions of the stories that everyone has put in? So can I see our story, our people? Even pictures, there's the Argentinian people sitting there and telling their stories. Okay. Now, I think I hope I haven't taken too much of your time, Chairperson.
No, you haven't, Ntabi.
I haven't, okay. I know I tend to talk a lot and I don't want to take, so this is what we say. We are IFLA and everybody's IFLA. We are Liasa, and we tend to think, if there's anything that I don't understand with us, is we always go and say, what does Liasa do for me? Why should Liasa do something for you? You are Liasa. Liasa is me. Liasa is you. You pay your membership. Liasa is an association. It doesn't have money. You need to be active. You need to do something for Liasa. We are Liasa. We are AFLIA. We are the librarians. We are the advocate. We are the advocate for our communities. And that's my story for today. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Ntabi. Maybe finally, before you introduce the speaker, for the sake of those who are not Liasa members, just the rationale behind South African Library Week.
Like I've said, the Library Week is basically for us librarians to showcase what we do in our libraries. We have community libraries. The SDGs, honestly, I said to you, this is the best topic you could have chosen. Yes, it's huge. Yes, it's something that needs a whole week for us to go through it and deal with it. but it is for us to showcase what libraries are doing. What are we doing for our students? What are we doing for our communities? What are we doing, the government libraries? What are we doing for the public libraries? What are we doing for the people in our communities? What are we doing for the small businesses? How are we supporting our communities? It is an opportunity to showcase our libraries. You know, right now in the library, we're doing something as simple as forgiving people fines. You know, if you don't have that 10 cents that you owe the book, you owe the library, for it to be removed, it's a nice thing. You know, it is for us librarians to recruit maybe new librarians into the field also. It is for LIASA also to showcase their, it's for LIASA to advocate for libraries and also to recruit new members. You know, like I've just said when I finished my presentation, that we always want to know what LIASA can do for us. But what can we as librarians do for LIASA? How can we support LIASA? How can we support AFLIA? How do we support the SDGs? How do we support copyright? How do we support WIPO? How do we support businesses? This is the opportunity for us as LIASA to showcase LIASA. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm too passionate about it because I've been through the ranks and through the structures, and I understand. I know a lot of librarians sit back and say, I'm not gonna pay how much is it now? $650, because everybody pays the $650 because they think LIASA is that conference that we go to and network and socialize. Also, how as librarians do we collaborate with other stakeholders, you know, and showcase libraries? You saw when I showed the SDGs in the medical field. How can we support doctors? What is it that we can do as members? Okay, I see Danny says the membership is $680. Please, if like LIASA doesn't have money, AFLIA doesn't have money, IFLA doesn't have money. They all depend on our subscription and the funding for Bill and Melinda Gates. Bill and Melinda Gates gave AFLIA a whole lot of money so that they can train librarians, develop librarians especially public librarians in Africa, develop leaders in Africa, because they saw the importance of libraries in the community, the importance of libraries in the whole world. IFLA and AFLIA have got those interministerial meetings with the ministers so that they can also, the ministers, and put the agenda of libraries on the agenda of countries, you know, and the SDGs. And also AFLIA also, I know it collaborates with is it AU? Because I'm old, I'll probably say the old name, or you know, to improve literacy skills in Africa. So these are important issues that we need to showcase. If you're a public librarian, honestly, when you're sitting with those little tiny, I love working with children because I worked in the children's library. When you're reading stories to them, you are helping them use their minds, you're entertaining them, engaging them. Sometimes some children, this is a safe space after school. When the mothers are gone to work, they can come to the public library and sit there and and just listen to stories, take out books, and we improving the literacy skills of these little babies that come to those libraries. So the Library Week is an opportunity for us to do that, to show the government, to show our leaders, to show the university, what is it that we do, you know? Now we have Tatemulapo in our midst, so he'll know that what us as the UFS librarians are doing, you know, and the representation that we have in LIASA and where we do what we do out there. It's just a pity that we really, really do not see our importance. There are libraries in prisons. There are libraries in the hospitals, you know. Those are, I remember when we had the IFLA conference in Durban, what was this guy? I can't remember the name, Sachs or whoever. He was saying when he was in Robben Island, the only thing that kept him there, the only thing that kept him motivated was the books that he got from the library, the chance to go to the library and see the librarian and talk to him, you know. So let's showcase ourselves and showcase everything that we are doing. Thank you. I think I've done enough speaking. I need to hand over to our
Thank you. Thank you. You can go ahead. You can go ahead.
So our speaker for today is Dr. Mulapo Kobela. Dr. Mulapo is the Vice Rector, Institutional Change, Strategic Partnership, and Societal Impact at the University of Free State. Dr. Kobela holds a PhD in plant pathology from the Kansas State University in the United States of America. His career started at Rose University in 1991, where he was a lecturer in microbiology and pharmacy, after which he joined the University of Cape Town before joining the public service sector. His leadership and strategic direction have been sought by several large and complex organizations in the course of his career. From 1998 to 2007, he was Chief Director, Higher Education Policy and Development Support in the Department of Education. From 2007 to 2009, he was Deputy Director General, Higher Education in the same department. And from 2010 to 2011, he was Deputy Director General, Human Capital and Knowledge System in the Department of Science and Technology. Dr. Kobela was appointed Vice Principal, Institutional Development at the University of South Africa, UNISA, in 2011, and held the position until 2015. He was the Chief Executive Officer of the National Research Foundation, NRF, from 2016 to 2020. Dr. Kobela has strong governance credential, having served and led governing boards, among others as a former chairperson of boards of Agricultural Research Council and the Global Research Council and the Committee of Heads of Organizations of Research and Technology. He is currently a chairperson of the Tertiary Education and Research Network of South Africa, TENET. I think the last one I really like, because, you know, we work with TENET in the library. So if Nandipa, you're listening, if we have problems with our, what is this that we are working on, our logins in the library. So if TENET then are not listening, we know where to go. Thank you, Dr. Mulapo. Over to you.
Madam Chair, Mentabiseng Kotsokwane, I'm humbled by your presentation and the introduction. I don't deserve many of the things that you said about me. I'm actually also intimidated by being in this august presence, and I want to thank you very much for the invitation to share a few words. I'm not sure if I will ever be able to even surpass the input that you have already made, because it's incredibly informative, and it already is talking about the role that we play in the SDG space. So I will do my best to maybe bring a slightly different flavor in terms of what we are doing, and but at the heart of it is to really acknowledge and to celebrate the work that we are doing as librarians and libraries more particularly in the development of our country, our continent, and obviously the global development agenda. Meputi, thank you very, very much also for the kind invitation. I've got a few slides, not many, but I hope to do my best to provoke ideas for discussion. And secondly, I would appreciate if you would allow me to take a perspective of universities. I do know that we are a diverse grouping. We come from different aspects of the library community, schools, colleges, you name it, we're all important. And sometimes it's valuable to maybe take a particular sector in these discussions. Chair, you'll have to guide me if the slide does not appear, but let me see if I still remember how to use Zoom. After all, it's one of those little things that Tenet is supporting the university system through Zoom licenses. How does it look, Chair?
It looks clear, sir.
Is it in?
You can just move it. Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
In the middle, it's fine.
Is that better? How does that look?
You can just move it a little bit to the, or rather, yes, it's fine. You can just put in the full screen tab.
Okay, let me see.
It's not in presentation mode.
Yeah.
It is not in presentation mode, and that's what I want to do actually.
There, thank you.
There's the one.
Is it in presentation mode now?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Oh la 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 la. Let me. Okay, now.
We can also go to slideshow and begin. That should also be another option. The options at the top next to animations, there's slideshow.
Yeah,
Transitions there. Next there's animations.
You're talking to an old man. That,
You know.
To your right.
that is talking.
Yes,
Trying
there.
his best. This one.
You know, scroll down a bit where it says draw.
Draw, just, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
and then design, transitions, animations, and the slideshow.
There we go.
There you
Oh,
go.
wow.
And then you can from beginning.
How does that work?
Click. It's not clicking.
It's not.
It's
Isn't
hanging.
it maybe on another screen that you have more than one screen and it's showing on one of your other screens?
I am using two screens.
Yes, I think it's showing on your other screen,
All
not
right,
the one that we see.
What do you see now?
The program.
The program.
Seen the program. Okay, let me switch screens. Colleagues, my apologies to you. You'll forgive the old man in terms of his. Now I am going to do this. What do you see at the moment?
The UFS screen,
You see the UFS screen.
blank, yes.
And now?
There, yes, the presentation, but not in presentation mode. Colleagues, can you not, can't you see it? Do you think we should? Oh, that's even better. Yes, it's bigger now.
Let's try this because
Yeah, let's use
really,
this.
I'm struggling with doing it the proper way.
It's because
Right. So, colleague,
resume. If you
let's-
can click resume there, it will play, because I've noticed that you click play, then there's still a drop down arrow say click here to resume. That's the problem. However, you can continue like this to for the time.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. Colleagues, like I said, I'm going to try my best to introduce ideas. And Menta Wisongo has already talked quite extensively about the role that we play as librarians and as libraries in advancing the Sustainable Development Goals agenda. And so I try to make this presentation, how could we make the UN SDGs a reality? And I want to start with what is already self-evident and what has already been said. And I stole this with, I hope, permission of Me Gehomputi in terms of the importance of libraries. Every single one of us, whether we are at universities, we're at colleges, we're at schools, we're specialists, community libraries, whether we do barefoot or we work in air-conditioned rooms, we are, all of us, incredibly important in advancing the SDG agenda. And it's difficult for me to top what Menta Wiseng has already said about the different roles that we play. But I think at the heart of it, we need to remind ourselves that we are, according to Hochstrom, according to all these other learned individuals, we have the responsibility to support and encourage public access to information, to communication. We help achieve the SDG goals by making information, whether it's about health, whether it's about hunger, whether it's about water, whether it is about relationships, partnerships, whatever it is that we are trying to pursue, we make an incredible and a very important role. But the one thing that I would like us to remind ourselves is that in as much as we do all of these things, we are also sites of knowledge in our own right. We are often perceived as enablers, which is important, but we are also knowledge centers. We do generate knowledge as libraries, and in addition to being enablers of the knowledge enterprise and enabling particularly greater visibility and impact of institutions. I see Hesme is on the call, and she and I work together on a little project which is still ongoing, which talking about visibility of our institutions, and in this particular institution being the University of the Free State. And I'll come and talk a little bit about also about the impact that we potentially have as institutions. And I want to start this conversation, colleagues, by providing a little bit of definitional information. I'll make reference to visibility, I'll make reference to impact in different parts of the presentation. And I thought it will be useful to use this opportunity to give expression to those two words and what they could potentially mean.
Sorry, Dr. Mlapo.
Yes,
sorry to disturb. I don't know if it's just my screen, but the presentation is showing half. If you can just make the screen smaller.
Ooh la la.
Mine is correct.
Fine. It's fine,
Is it?
Kefo. Yeah,
It's
it's
fine,
your
yeah.
computer.
So it's my side. Sorry.
Yes, okay.
Sorry, colleagues.
Hey, technology. So colleagues, these are my definitions. I'm not saying that these are universal, but these are my definitions. So visibility. We as librarians want to be visible. But in the context of institutional visibility, we are proposing that we should be visible if we are being known and recognized as a university of excellence by our peers and by society. And you could translate that to libraries being known and recognized as institutions that serve the community that they have been identified to serve. And you will have different forms of visibility. There are different instruments of visibility. different ways at institutional level. So Hesme and I were working on institutional rankings through Times Higher Education and Impact rankings. And you've got individual rankings, and all of us in different parts of the higher education system look at individual recognitions, whether it's NRF ratings, whether you're a member of an international or local society and scientific body. We ourselves, as Me Ntabisong Kozokwane, recognize that we are members of a particular community, and we are in different ways held in esteem by our peers. And so that's how you become visible. Simply be known and be recognized as leaders in our communities. The impact agenda, however, has, in my view, two dimensions. There's the knowledge impact and there's a societal impact. And with regard to knowledge impact, we're referring to scientific advances in understanding, in interpretation, in methods, in theory, in application, and related advances that bring about positive change, within or across disciplines and fields. That definition alone will say it would be impossible for the knowledge enterprise to do that without the library system. And so in many ways, we are inherently important in advancing the knowledge impact agenda. Similarly, the societal impact refers to the value that that knowledge adds to society across different spheres, whether they're societal or social, economic, or environmental. And in many ways, that's how it connects with the Sustainable Development Goals. The societal impact reflects the direct or the indirect relationship between the knowledge agenda, the processes, the improvement in the quality of people's lives. And obviously that would be inclusive of innovation, technological advancement, improvement, sustainability, policy development, and the like. Then Ntabiseng, you talked about the relationship that you have with ministers, whether it is in our country or on the continent through the African Union. And again, it's the way in which we impact on society that allow us to be able to lay claim to the fact that we have societal impact as institutions of knowledge. I was also talk about the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations being Agenda 2030. But I often remind myself that we are on the African continent. And so whenever we talk about the SDGs, they must always be seen within the lens of our own agenda as a continent. And that is Agenda 2063, the Africa that we want. And for those of us that are familiar with Agenda 2030, and Men Ntabiseng has already talked to that, the timeframes, while ambitious, are actually very short. 2030 is 8 years from now. And so we don't have much time, even though this was a 15-year agenda from 2015 to 2030. Between now and 2030, the timeline is extremely short. And this is really about a plan of action that the world has come together to adopt around 3 key areas of people, our own planet, and the prosperity of the people that live on this planet. Ntabiseng has already talked about the fact that there are 17 interrelated SDGs, 169 targets that obviously seek to build on the MDGs. Agenda 2063, on the other hand, has a longer timeline. It would obviously, and as you will see, have a great resonance with the SDGs. And in our case, we chose 50 years because we did a 50-year celebration of the African Organization of African Unity to create the AU in 2013, having been established in 1963. And it is our blueprint as a continent and our master plan for transforming our continent into a global powerhouse, we hope, of the future. And what we do today will hopefully be making the lives of our children and our grandchildren a lot better than us. And it is our strategic framework to develop to deliver goals and inclusive and sustainable development, which is synonymous with the SDGs. 7 aspirations, and instead of 17 interrelated SDGs, we have 7 aspirations, and each with their own goals, and there are 20 in total. And this is over a 50-year period. This gives you an example of the relationship between the goals of the African Union Agenda 2063 and the UN SDGs. So goal 1, and I haven't listed all of them, goal 1 is a high standard of living, quality of life and well-being of the citizens of our continent. And that would be synonymous whether you are living in South Africa, in Botswana, or Mali, or for that matter, Eritrea. Looking at the SDGs is about ending poverty. It is about ending hunger. It's about promoting sustained and inclusive economic growth. And it is about making cities and human settlements inclusive, safe and resilient and sustainable, especially as there are more and more people who are coming to live in cities from the rural areas in search of economic activity. We have already discussed the issue of the role that we play as libraries in developing well-educated citizens and a skills revolutions underpinned by science, technology, and innovation. There is no question about the role that we play in that regard. And again, SDG 4, which Thabiseng has already talked to. Health and nourished citizens, healthy and nourished citizens, strong resonance and connectivity with SDG 3, which is about ensuring healthy lives and promoting well-beings of all ages, and obviously transformed economies, which is about ensuring that from an SDG point of view, we promote sustained, inclusive and sustainable economic growth, and we build resilient infrastructure that promotes inclusive and sustainable industrialization. So there is a strong resonance between the 2030 agenda and the 2063 agenda of the African Union. And I think it's important that when we talk about the SDGs and the fact that they end in 2030, the agenda of development as a continent will continue beyond the SDGs and hopefully will continue to be underpinned by Agenda 2063. Without going into all 17, what I've tried to do is to capture the 5 Ps that the 17 SDGs talk to. And at the heart, it's about people. And I put it simply, the agenda is about ending poverty. It is not about reducing poverty and hunger. It is about ending poverty and hunger, to ensure that all human beings can fulfill their potential in dignity and equality in a healthy environment. That's the heart of what we're trying to do with all those different SDGs, whether it's SDG 1, it's SDG 2, or 3, and others that are associated thereto. The gender agenda is about people, about the fact that half of the global population is one gender and the other half is another gender, while one gender has not necessarily been enabled to participate fully in their own future. It's also about planet, protecting the planet from degradation. We only have one planet that we live on as humans. And if we don't look after it, we have nowhere else to go. Protecting that planet from degradation, including through sustainable consumption. We didn't have as much plastics when I was growing up. We used to return bottles for a few cents. Nowadays, that doesn't happen. We talk about production sustainably, managing our natural resources, whether it's carbon or it is other forms of natural resources, and taking urgent action on climate change so that it can support the needs of the present and future generations. It is also, the third is about prosperity, ensuring all of us, whether we are coming from the global south or the global north, we are able to ensure all of us bring and can enjoy prosperity and a prosperous and fulfilling lives, that economic and social technological progress occurs harmoniously with nature. Otherwise, it is not sustainable. And then the last two P's are equally important, and the peace is particularly important for us, not just in terms of what is happening in Europe at the moment between two countries, but the necessity of peace being the foundation of development. And we will see it clearly in terms of our own continent, of the difficulties that we have had to endure on our continent, where we have not had peace. But we need to foster peaceful and just and inclusive societies that are free from fear and from violence, whether it is gender-based violence or it is just violence and physical violence between nations. And then the last one is about partnerships. We need to recognize that we will not be able to do that we seek unless we partner with others, and therefore it is a means of mobilizing others to ensure that we implement this particular agenda. So it's trying to frame everything that we do around those 5 Ps, and the first 3 probably being the anchors. So what about us as universities? We have a role to play. There is an expectation that we play a very significant role. Why? Because historically and currently, universities have and will always play a significant role in society, in that we can act as paramount mechanisms in society, in the economy, in the environment, as agents of positive change. We are sites of knowledge, inclusive of our libraries, as I said earlier. We are sites of research and innovation, and we are places where we educate the future generations of our society. If we don't conscientize the future about sustainability, then it is to our own detriment. And therefore, universities thus have a very strong role to play in impacting on society. And therefore, it is in the context of the Agenda 2063 that this important role remains essential, and an expectation that we continue to play that role. But the question obviously would be, what would this mean? How can and should universities play and address the world's greatest challenges? Thabiso Nkosi has already given you a flavor of what libraries could be doing in responding to all 17 of these SDGs. But I would like to take it at the institutional level, using the lens of universities. While these 17 SDGs lay out a framework of transformation towards a more sustainable futures, all of us, universities, colleges, institutions that are post-school particularly, can, could, should support the achievement of these goals and employ, I hope, more systemic approaches, more energetic approaches that recognize the cross-cutting nature of these goals and their targets. You cannot achieve SDG 1 without SDG 2, without SDG 3. If you are looking at gender equality, and you're looking at gender equality in the context of no hunger, you will know that the greatest burden on our continent in particular that women carry in providing for their families is disproportionate to the role that men play, and therefore you cannot divorce the SDGs from each other. You need to recognize the complexity and the cross-cutting relationships between these goals and the targets that we've set for ourselves. So from a universities and the SDG point of view, UNESCO came up with and there's a conference in Barcelona. For those that have got a few pennies, do please register, attend virtually, physically if you can. the World Conference on Higher Education. One of the questions, or some of the questions that we are asking is, how can universities and higher education gear up their activities to tackle these global challenges? What should their focus be? What new knowledge, research, educational strategies are needed to generate necessary transformative and transformations for the 2030 agenda? What are the necessary transformations required within ourselves and within our own institutions in order to contribute to the achievement of the SDGs? And consequentially, what barriers stand in the way of these transformations? What can universities and other higher education institutions do to ensure more inclusive and sustainable futures for all? And the real challenge here is about how we institutionalize the SDGs in our own organizations, in our own institutions, irrespective of how big or small we are, to improve our potential of higher societal impact. As I said earlier, that must always and should always be accompanied by knowledge impact in the way that I've defined. Those that are interested, you could download this UNESCO report. It's 101 pages. It's free as part and parcel of an agenda of ensuring that knowledge is accessible to all. If you would like me to post that particular link in the chat, I will later, but I will also share these slides. And this report is actually quite instructive and challenges us to look at what is it that we could do differently. And it raises three interrelated themes. It's a very interesting report to read. The need for us to move towards inter and transdisciplinary modes of producing and circulating knowledge. So are we going to look at each SDGs separately, or are we going to recognize the complexity and the interrelatedness, and therefore in the manner in which we educate, in the manner in which we present knowledge and ideas, do we take it in a narrow sense, or do we take it in an inter and interdisciplinary mode? And again, these are issues that we need to reflect as libraries in the manner in which such knowledge is then obviously either presented or, for that matter, enabled. Secondly, the imperative of becoming open institutions, fostering epistemic dialogue and integrating diverse ways of knowing. The recognition, by way of example, of indigenous knowledge, and the fact that it doesn't mean that the only form of knowledge that needs to be acknowledged is Western knowledge, but that indigenous knowledge needs to be recognized. Again, we as librarians, how do we enable this diversity of epistemic knowledge? And then secondly, the issue of being open, of being accessible. And I know that Jeanette and her team and the UFS Library and many others are strong advocates of the open science agenda, and asking ourselves whether that open agenda will also help in the democratization of knowledge, but also in ensuring that more and more people have access to knowledge to be able to improve their lives. And then the third one is demanding stronger presence in society of those knowledge producers through proactive through proactive engagement and partnering with other societal actors. Let us remind ourselves that we are part and parcel of society, and what we do and how we do it need to take into account that we are not an island. And again, I will come back and I say we can reflect on all these three and more in terms of how we enable, and we as libraries also specifically can help achieve these particular objectives. I've got a couple of more slides which talk about how we could institutionalize the SDGs in our respective organizations. Two approaches. The easiest of the two is what I call a minimalist approach. We continue to do what we do and simply report against those SDGs either individually or clustered in those 5 Ps. Nothing changes in terms of how you do your work, what you do, what your priorities are, but you are then just packaging that you do and presenting it to others to be able to showcase the impact that you have. A different approach is a deliberate approach which incorporates the intentions and the principles of both Agenda 2063 and Agenda 2030 in the strategic planning framework of your organization, be it your university, be it your college, be it your library as at a national level, or for that matter, specialist or whatever the case may be. How do you deliberately think about the agenda that you are pursuing through the SDGs or through AU Agenda 2063, and in essence, change the way you do things? And secondly, you could look at how you actively imbue the purpose and the outcomes into, given that we are a university, into the academic project, whether it's the teaching and learning agenda, the research and innovation agenda, or the engaged scholarship agenda. And I want to give examples of what we may want to consider and how we as librarians and libraries could actually enable. So I use the example of possible institutionalization, active institutionalization. And I want to start with research in part because it's relatively easy for most of us to see. And we could, by way of example, use the SDGs as the primary lens for assessing societal impact of our research. So Esma will tell you that you can now go into the different databases, and they will be able to show you the research in relation to the different SDGs. You could even take it further and look at the actual research content and be able to present and show that the work that we're doing, and I'll use the example, allow me to do a little bit of a plug. We have in this university an Institute for Groundwater Studies. We also, by way of example, in Putari Chaba in Kwakwa, have the Afromontane Research Unit. Mountains are sources of water. Water is the most precious resource that this planet and probably this continent has. It is more precious than oil. And so part of that water will come from the mountains, another part will come from underground. And again, it's the work that is being done to make sure that there are ways in which that not only being extracted, but also being utilized in a sustainable manner. So I'm using that as an example of how the work that you do could then have a direct impact on a particular SDG. We need to find creative ways of identifying, as institutions, areas where we could grow or where we are already strong in terms of our capacity and capability as a research leader in particular niche areas, whether it's in the area of people, planet, or prosperity, centers of excellence, which could be driving a particular agenda we have there. And an example at CUT, they as a university are renowned for certain aspects in engineering. And again, when you look at that, it is a center of excellence that when you assess its impact on society, it needs to be recognized and presented in a particular way. Encourage and support transdisciplinary research. And again, when we look at libraries, do we find creative ways of making sure that transdisciplinary knowledge is accessible, or are we only looking at specific disciplines in terms of support? Build and nurture strategic partnerships to enhance the potential for research to improve the quality of people's lives. And again, that talks to SDG 17, but it is also part and parcel of advancing the institutionalization agenda. In teaching and learning, the key one really, also recognized by the UNESCO report, is about encouraging and supporting transdisciplinary modes of learning, particularly in recognition of the complexity and the interconnectedness of the SDGs. Not many universities have interfaculty programs. Not many universities allow students to be able to bring the different disciplines together to be able to respond to particular challenges that we are facing, both as a country or, for that matter, as a continent or a globe. We need to think creatively about also how we include sustainability in the design and the programs of our programs and curricula, and possibly introduce new programs. So systems analysis is a different way of doing business, recognizing complexity and the fact that things are interrelated. Not many of our institutions have a systems analysis capability. And we need to also utilize knowledge and understanding from research to be able to change and improve our curricula and program design to respond to wicked problems that the SDGs have identified. And then lastly, we need to look at creative ways of how we strengthen student knowledge, skills and attributes for employability and service to society. In as much as the acquisition of a degree or diploma or a certificate helps in the upward social mobility of the individual, which is important in improving prosperity for all, it is also important for us to imbue a particular culture within our students to understand the importance of a relationship that they must have with the society in which they serve. And so that it is not just merely about the individual advancement, but it is also about the advancement of the collective. With regard to engaged scholarship, I come back to an issue that I raised earlier. It is about encouraging and supporting our academics to embrace the open science agenda. And in our case, to really find ways to democratize knowledge for greater societal impact. The more of us that are that have access to knowledge, the better I think our lives are going to be. One of the things that you can never take away from somebody who has acquired knowledge is the fact that they already have it. You can't take it away. And it is how you then enable them to be able to use that knowledge. So the democratization of knowledge through openness is, I think, is something that we can work creatively together towards. We need to find also ways of encouraging and supporting the engagement of our scholars, our academics, the people who generate knowledge, whether they're inside of faculties, whether they're inside of schools or inside of libraries themselves, to engage with community and publics on how their knowledge has a direct or indirect impact in society. It is also helping us, not just in terms of visibility, but also in terms of our license to practice what we do in relation to how society looks at us. Encourage, again, with the democratization agenda of using open, free platforms. And I'll close with a little plug on our relationship with the Conversation Africa, and which is a free platform to enable us as knowledge producers to be able to get society to appreciate the role that we play in their daily lives, and also help them to appreciate the value that universities, libraries have in their daily lives. And then the last one is advancing the value and impact of knowledge through reports, advocacy, outreach to peers, partners, publics, etc., including the use of benchmarking systems. And in our case, as I said earlier, Esme and I are working on rankings. There are impact rankings that you will find in the QS or the Times Higher Education, where we look at whether or not as an organization you are advancing the sustainability agenda. And again, all of us have a role to play in that. Chairperson, my last slide is the little plug around the conversation. The Conversation Africa in particular, because there's a Conversation Australia, Europe, America, and everywhere. It's a platform designed for academics to be able to increase their visibility as academics, but to enable the engagement between the academic community and society more broadly. And as this particular invitation says, research visibility matters for every one of us, the current day researchers, as well as the librarians, as Mayor Ntabiseng was saying. So publishing in peer-reviewed journal is vital, but so is the importance to disseminate your research, your findings beyond academia. And the UFS has partnered with the Conversation Africa. I would encourage CUT, if they're not yet members, to also join the conversation movement. And so we have this writing workshop to help us, those that write for academics in academic journals, to be able to take that work and be able to present it to the everyday person, to be able to appreciate, and for them to see the impact of the work that we do on society. Chair, let me pause there and thank you, and looking forward to an engagement.
Thank you so much, Dr. Malapo, for that valuable presentation. And I know my colleagues and I have learned quite a lot. I concentrated on the libraries, and you brought the university spaces into the conversation, and especially knowledge creation. And I really, really love the 5 Ps. I'm stealing them from you. Next time, when I talk about SDGs, I will reference them because I'm a librarian, where I got them from, and then talk about the 5 Ps. And they, in a way, also the interrelation between the SDGs. You know, we always look at them as individual SDGs. We look at women, we look at water, but that part of the interrelationship between them, and also the, you know, the fact that we also have been to be knowledge creators. Africa is known for consumers of knowledge. And every time somebody says that, I just want to scratch, because I know we can do it. And open access, open science allows us to share our knowledge. And then, you know, academics, I think I'm not talking bad about academics or academia. We think sharing knowledge in the open space people will take my intellectual property. I don't know how many times have we tried to convince the academics it's not that way. Knowledge that is not used is knowledge wasted. Knowledge that has been recycled, improved, reused is knowledge that improves the lives of the community. And this also will speak to the platform that I think the Science and Technology, Department of Science and Technology, they're working on a platform where all the African knowledge, lack of a better word, will be all digitized or collected and shared openly to everyone in Africa. As I said before, we need to tell our story, our African stories, the way we want to tell them. Thank you very much for that insightful presentation. I'm sure my colleagues have learned a lot from it. And I think we can open for questions for Dr. Mulapo from the floor. I don't see a Q&A, Kagiso, I don't see a Q&A button here, so I'm not sure how we're going to handle the questions. And Kiho. Hello.
There is we can use the chat bar.
Okay.
Tabi?
Yes, Kecha is right. We can use the chat
okay.
box at the bottom, or the members can simply just unmute themselves and ask the questions, and we take it as we go.
All right. So I am waiting for hands. Okay, I'm not seeing any hands. Because can I do an icebreaker, because I see everybody's scared to ask questions. My question is, how are we encouraging our students to be knowledge creators? Like to be, I don't know how to put it. I have it in my head, but I need to put it in proper English. So that because we can also learn from them, and then they also should be participants or active participants in learning and teaching, and also be creators of knowledge. I don't know. I'm not, I know what I want to say, but I'm not sure if I'm saying it correctly.
No, Chair, it's a challenge. There is one aspect which we need to recognize, that knowledge is something that doesn't age. So I'm still learning, and I learned a lot from your presentation, and so you could say that I'm a student in that context. But I suspect you're talking about undergraduate students.
Yes, undergraduate, not, yeah.
Because even at postgraduate level, there are still many systems across the world where postgraduate students go to classes and they take advanced classes. So now, how do you encourage? I think what we need to do, Chair, is to find a creative way of changing our philosophy to education and encourage knowledge for understanding rather than to memorize and to merely give me back the facts. So we should not necessarily be educating for people to fill their heads with lots of facts. Yes, facts are important, but the most important thing is encourage curiosity, encourage inquisition, encourage questioning. Your students must be inquisitive individuals. They must question what they read and not just simply regurgitate what they read. And I think if we find a different way of engaging with our students to encourage them to be that type of student, then I think you will find that they will open their minds to be able to present to you their own ideas. But at the moment, we tend to take an approach of saying, you must know the following 5 issues, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and give them back to me And you'll forgive me because sometimes I will be too frank. Matric, final year, most schools spend the last 9 months doing nothing but looking at previous exam papers. And that is about studying to pass an exam and not necessarily studying to understand, to learn, to appreciate, and to deepen your knowledge. So it's about changing the way we approach our teaching and learning space.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we open for questions. Betsy, sorry.
Thank you, Ntabi. I have observed well. Dr. Kobela is a VC at UFS, and so he's one of the executive managers of the university. So I'm going to ask this question because I'd like to hear what his opinion is, what advice he can give us as librarians. And my question is about the value that, shall I refer to academic libraries because that is what we're talking about now, but all the other libraries are equally important, but the value of academic libraries, the value that academic libraries contribute towards the teaching, research, learning and community engagement roles of the universities. You know, Doctor, last year, our South African Library Week theme was Libraries Matter. This year, we're talking about reimagining ourselves, repurposing and rediscovering. We always come up with these types of things because we are still trying to, position ourselves. We're still trying to make sure that we're recognized properly. We're still trying to make sure that we are not seen as people who are delivering support services, but core academic services. And so a number of academic libraries have given, capacitated themselves in terms of the trends, new trends in the academic library. So they know the role that they are playing, and they are playing that role. They are visible. They are making an impact. But for some reason, Dr. Kobela, we are not yet operating on, for example, dean's level. The highest position libraries have is on an executive director level. We are not yet recognized in a manner that I think we should because of the impact that we are making in all the goals of the university. So my question, or maybe the comment that I'd like to make, is your opinion. I know I'm putting it on the spot. Your opinion, or what your advice would be in order for us to further ensure that our executive managers in our universities know that we matter, know that we make an impact, and therefore we deserve to be operating on a higher level. Yeah, let me stop there.
Okay. Tademulapo, over to you.
Well, no, I didn't expect the easy questions, Chair. At least I've not been roasted at a personal level. So really, I do thank colleagues for that. I'm talking to the converted, and I think it is not a bad thing, and hopefully you will appreciate it if I put it in a way that is a challenge. We, for instance, as universities, are expected to do everything. We are expected to be businesses. We are expected to be knowledge producers. We are expected to train the next generation. We are expected to give access to, the most underprivileged, the most privileged. We are supposed to be everything to society. We know that we can't do everything. So therefore, we have to sometimes ask ourselves very hard questions. So I'm coming to answer your question, Mebesti, in a different way. We here in the Free State, what would happen to this province if CUT was not here, if UFS was not here, if the motel was not here, if Maluti TVET, Flavors Mareka, these post-secondary institutions, if they were not located in this province, what would this province lose? I'm putting it in a way which says, part of what we sometimes also as organizations need to do is to make our case that we are actually not just indispensable, but we are an incredibly valuable entity to the life of this particular province and in this country. So, is it possible for a university to be a university without a library? Okay. Many of you say no. And all of us will say no. What would we lose if a university did not have a library? And how do we present the indispensable role that we play as libraries in the health and growth and well-being of the university? Sometimes it is not always about the position that you hold, because you can have a position with no influence. But it is about the influence that you have within the organization to be able to show the indispensable nature of the role that you play in the health of the organization. And so our challenge collectively is to be able to present that indispensable, critical role that we play for the health of the organization. And secondly, to find a way of always renewing the role that you play. 50 years ago, people had a particular notion of what libraries are. Today, it's a very different animal. I had the privilege, of going to the Great Library of Alexandria in Egypt. The picture that most of us have is that place was full of books, full of, and it's an absolute fantastic space to be in. But its presence in the digital space is actually even far more remarkable. And so the way in which they presented themselves is to recognize that if they are going to remain as the old Library of Alexandria in the way in which people perceived of it in the early days, then people will start to very quickly think that they are not needed. So I would say, Mebesti, is not necessarily about the position of our librarians in converting them from executive directors to deans, but it is how, when that happens, it is in recognition of the important and the role, the indispensable role that we play in the health of the organization, and that the organization will not move forward without a library that thinks of itself as an integral part of the future of the university. So we must be sources of new ideas. We must be places to be able to say, this is where the future is, and this is how you actually can get to that future, and not be waiting for others to tell us. It's a challenge to me as much as it is a challenge to all of us. You're muted.
Thank you.
No.
Thank you, thank you, Dr. Mulapo, for that. And I can see Mebetsi with her finger. She's happy with what you have said to her. I have a question. I would like the owner, Izungu, are you able to unmute and ask your question? I can read it, but I think it would be better for you to say it. Okay. Okay, I'm just gonna see if he's trying to unmute somewhere. Okay, I'll read the question because I'm not sure.
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yes, I'm
Please
audible.
ask your question.
Oh, okay. No, thank you, Chair. No, my question to Dr. Mulapo was about the incorporating the SDG into the learning and teaching and learning, because it also related to the library. Because as a library, we would like to stock or to buy the material that supports the SDG, but then you'll find that maybe that material will not be used by the faculties. So then I want to check with Dr. Mulapo if then the enforcement of SDG, it has to come from the DHET, or it has to be a decision by the individual university that they try to push or try to enforce the teaching and learning, but it has to be in line with the SDG. So it means that the courses that are offered or the research that is being offered by the different departments in the higher learning institution are also in line or are going towards the SDG, so that at least we as a library, we can then play a role in terms of stocking such material. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, Dr. Mulapo.
No, Chair. I saw the question in the chat, and one of the beauties of working at a university is that we will claim academic freedom and institutional autonomy. It doesn't mean that we are irresponsible members of society by claiming autonomy, but it simply says in the space of where we are, we have to have the opportunity of pursuing knowledge, and the best way that we believe is we should pursue it. We are different from a school where the curricula is not set by government, it is set by ourselves. And the curricula of this university will not be identical to the curriculum of other universities in the country. So there's the freedom to pursue knowledge in the best way that we believe best. So the short answer to whether we ought to wait for DHET, I would say absolutely not. We have the power, we have the, we've been given the license to do what we believe is best. So the question that I would put is, when we are as libraries making decisions, do we, as Zungu was saying, do we buy material in the hope that it will be used because we like it, and we then blame the academics for not using it? Or do we have a relationship which is both push and pull, where we respond to the needs of what is required, but we also have a relationship with the users of our of this fantastic enabling system that is the library system, whereby we have an understanding of what we are collectively trying to pursue. So the SD agenda is not and cannot only be a library agenda. It has to be an institutional agenda. It has to be something that we collectively buy into. It has to be something that as an organization, including those of us that generate ideas, new knowledge, those that teach, they and us come together to make that choice. And then we talk about, this is what we need to enable us to deliver this that we have chosen, i.e. using the SDGs as an instrument to advance an impact agenda. It's the same thing that in our library we have Figshare, which is helping us with open science. In the same way that we have a whole host of other systems. We have Insights, which helps us to be able to do certain things. We have Scopus that enables us. But all of those things have to be there because we have collectively agreed that they are necessary for us to advance that agenda. And it's important for libraries not to see ourselves as separate and independent from academic enterprise, but as an integral part. That way, we will have greater impact. I hope that responds, Chair.
Thank you. I think you do. Okay, we have a question from our patient zero, that day Charlie Mulek from the hospital. He says it is important to keep track on where we are in terms of 2030 or 2063. What would you suggest as a country or institution can do to evaluate where we are in terms of these objectives? I may include also the NDP. Can I add something to patient zero also? When we do our plans in the institution, I am assuming all those documents, the 2030 agendas, the 2063 and the NDP form part of our planning in this institution. I know we assume that's what's happening, but maybe you can just clarify that for us.
No, Mentabi saying absolutely. I did not include a slide. It would have been very busy, where I would have put in a column our NDP aspirations, the AU aspirations, and the Sustainable Development Goals, and you will see great resonance across all three. In any case, we as a country have adopted both the SDGs as well as the AU Agenda 2063. So it doesn't make any sense for us to be at odds. So, but as an institution, we frame our choices taking all three into consideration. The challenge under the Charlie is we need to be very careful. When we were doing the MDGs, we will talk about how far we have come in terms of achieving. And I'll use one example, access to education. The gross enrollment ratio of South Africa in the schooling system is almost 1, but 90 something, meaning that almost every child who should be in school is in school, in primary school. And in here I'm talking about grade 1, not grade 12, because that is vastly different. There are about 12 million young people, 12.5 million young people in schooling. And every year in grade 1, there are about 1.2 million that enter grade 1 every year. But you and I know that it's not 1.2 million that write matric. If we are looking and using a measure of access as merely the number of young people, the number of children that are in school, that should be in school, we are doing very well in grade 1. But if you scratch a little bit further and you ask, what is the quality of the educational outcomes? It's a different issue. And so we need to be careful not to take the SDGs and NDP as separate and individual activities where we are reporting on the performance of a particular, should I say, SDG in isolation to the others. So you and I know that there is a strong relationship between hunger and schooling participation. And so our view, Dr. Charlie, would be keep track, but keep track at the very minimum using the 5 Ps. A report on a narrative basis and not just merely on a tick box basis of saying we have reached 95%. We have reduced hunger by 10%. But to try and put them in relation to each other and see whether fundamentally you have changed people's lives, you have improved the lot of the people side, whether the environment is in a better state, whether there is greater prosperity in terms of those 5 Ps, rather than to do it individually. So that would be my suggestion, Chairperson. And I know that we are almost at 2 o'clock.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Mulapo. This was very informative. We've learned a lot, quite a lot from you. And I know you're a very busy man to come and be with us. And that's an appreciation. That's enough appreciation that you took your time and come to, and when you, the chairperson said come, and then you dropped everything and came and spoke to us. We really, really appreciate that. So I think I will hand over to Keho.
Thank you very much, Ntabi, for facilitating this program for us. I think you summarized it nicely, what Dr. Malap-Kobela said, and we really appreciate that you accepted our invitation and graced us with your presence. And as she said, we have learned a lot, and hopefully we'll ponder on it and see where we can make a difference. Because of time on our program, we are going to leave the quiz so that we don't take too much of your time, and I will just hand over to Mr. Ntorani to give us a vote of thanks. Tate Moses?
Moses was lost. He has just joined us now.
Okay, while we are waiting, please go and like our Facebook, and there will be a teaser there for you with regard to the quiz that we did or was going to do, and Nambita will be posting something of interest there. Thank you. Over to you, Moses.
Okay. Thank you, my chair. Let me give thanks to the following, the BEC members. I want to thank you for all the efforts that you put in ensuring that this event is actually successful. If it's possible, can you unmute your camera so that we catch a glimpse of your face, so that the rest of everybody can see you, all BEC members? It's not necessary that you should introduce yourself. We just want to see those beautiful faces. Yes, thank you very much. And then I also want to thank the chair, Keho, for open. Thank you very much. Furthermore, I want to thank Malan, our national treasurer, and the president, Charlie Mulepo, for gracing this event. Thank you very much. colleagues, and also from the national office. I want to, I think Iskach with us in this meeting. I also want to thank Mentabise Kotsokwani for her story with us, for about the libraries, and also for leading the discussions. Thank you very much, Mekotokwani. Then I also want to thank Dr. Mulapo for setting to come and engage. Thank you. The information that you shared with us is really enriching, and it will help us big time. Thank you. So to thank her as well, because featured the guests for being part of this event. Thank you very much. And with this, over to the chair. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Moses. You were cut there a little bit, but we heard most of that. Thank you so much. I want to thank the LIASA members. Without you, we wouldn't be having this event, and your support and your engagement. I still think, like my former chair used to say, we are the best branch, and we are still going to be. And I thank you for coming, and I would like to say the next event will be in April, and we'll be having an author who's going to grace us with a presence with regard to the history retold about the names of historical characters in our country. And then also in May, we will also have an event about digital storytelling. Yes, but so watch your social medias, and we'll also send correspondence with regard to that. Thank you very much, and goodbye.